tell you guys something that happened right before I got here. So this morning as I was getting ready, my daughter was like, Mama, your butt is as big and squishy as the giant clouds outside. And I just thought to myself, that if that doesn't sum up being a mom, I don't know what does. My husband Colin was about to start testing our sprinkler system. I remember the sprinklers. They are my most prominent memory from my first Mother's Day. The sky was a vibrant blue, and the air was crisp, yet warm, the way only Montana spring can feel. The smell of fresh-cut grass infused the air. Yet a tornado raged inside me. As each sprinkler zone turned on, I froze in panic, thinking that the sprinkler's pipes were broken and were flooding the crawl space. My rational mind knew they were not, but my built-up postpartum anxiety had to find a way out, and obsessing about the sprinklers was its chosen outlet. I remember screaming for them to be turned off. Colin looked shocked and responded that they were fine and there was no water in the crawl space. I then began sobbing hysterically and slowly descended into my first ever panic attack. I'm a wife, a mother, a registered nurse, and a third-generation Bozemanite. After 4 years of marriage to my college sweetheart, 2 stable careers, owning our first home, and little debt, we were as well prepared and stable as a couple could be before starting a family. I had always been a very in-control, responsible person and equated this to being a future successful mother. After finding out I was pregnant, I envisioned how amazing I was going to be at this. I couldn't wait for baby stage and just knew I would rock that part. The nausea set in at 5 weeks. No vomiting, no relief. Just a constant, overwhelming nausea. That, unbeknown to me, would not subside until I pushed my daughter out 9 months later. When would I get to that glowing pregnant lady stage everyone had described? It never happened. I didn't understand. This wasn't what I expected. The 20-week ultrasound was the start of our struggles. I had never had any mental health issue prior to this. We went to this ultrasound with a positive outlook, despite the letdown of already knowing she was a girl. My disappointment in her gender stemmed from fear that I would continue my family's generational pattern of mother-daughter conflict. Thus, my American dream had involved having 3 boys. At the end of the ultrasound, the radiologist came in and told us she had a 2-vessel umbilical cord. Normal anatomy is 3 umbilical vessels. My doctor's office was closed, so I went home and Googled it. Words like birth defects, miscarriage, and stillbirth leapt off the computer screen. Although the umbilical cord seemed to be a benign finding, we rechecked everything at 30 weeks, when our lives would change forever. I went to this ultrasound alone, knowing that I can do this. I can control this. After the ultrasound, though, I was told to go directly to my doctor's office, which I knew meant bad news. I waddled there with a racing heart. My doctor sat down next to me and solemnly reported, "There's something wrong with her heart." Tears flowed as those loaded words sunk in. "Is she going to be okay?" I remember asking. Her response, "I don't know." The months that followed were saturated with apprehension. I worried when I didn't feel her move, but at the same time felt oddly unattached to the little being growing in my belly. There are no pictures from my pregnancy, no social media posts, no maternity photo shoots. I didn't want to remember pregnancy, and I didn't want to remember myself this way. I didn't know this sad person who couldn't control anything in her life anymore. She was a stranger. Due to low amniotic fluid, I got induced at 40 weeks. 24 hours later, Harper Grace entered the world on a rainy spring evening. As she cuddled onto my chest, I felt separated from this entire situation. Wasn't I supposed to love her immediately? Because right now, all I felt was pure exhaustion. As the doctors went through her newborn checks, we felt like our prayers had been answered when they said her heart sounded normal. The first week home from the hospital was filled with family and friends, drop-off dinners, movie marathons, and my fabulous afternoon glass of wine while watching Ellen. It felt like an adult spring break. Then my husband went back to work, and I was alone. Breastfeeding was such a challenge. Harper never latched, so I pumped exclusively. Then came my first case of mastitis, which would come back 4 more times. After 3 continuous months of this, I was told I would need to stay on a daily antibiotic for the remainder of my time pumping. After a long discussion with Colin, I decided to stop breastfeeding. It was the first decision I had made for my own health since becoming pregnant, and I felt a small part of myself return. I felt hopeful. However, this relief was met with an equally strong backlash from others who couldn't believe I was giving up. I mean, how could I live with myself if I put Harper on formula? God forbid. Rachel, you clearly haven't tried hard enough. The freedom I found in weaning was destroyed by others' judgments. Harper did not sleep and cried constantly. Where were these moms getting these sleeping, smiling babies? And where could I get one? My more important concern, though, was that I still didn't feel love towards her. More like an obligation. Did I have a tiny, shriveled up heart like the Grinch? I wished I had never gotten pregnant. I wished I could return her. I hated mom life. I gazed at my friends and saw them gushing over being mothers, listening to them chat about how they'd never experienced a love like this and couldn't wait to have more kids. Shame and guilt engulfed me. As late summer arrived, I found myself crying every time Colin would leave for work, sobbing, not knowing if I could make it through another day. I'm fairly certain I scored poorly on every one of my postpartum depression screenings, although I never remember anyone saying anything except, "It can be hard, but you look like you're doing great." I was not doing great. In all honesty, I probably would not have accepted help, even if it was offered, out of pure shame. This shame intensified as I tried to confide in others, who told me that I was being selfish and I needed to choose to be more positive. After all, these were the best days of my life. They didn't understand that what was happening to me was something I had no control over. How are these the best days of my life when I haven't even slept in 6 months? My former support system became an unsafe place for me, and I was surrounded by a storm of sadness, inadequacy, and isolation. I asked my doctor for help and was prescribed an antidepressant and a sleeping pill. That same night, while lying in bed trying to fall asleep, I remember a chill of unease permeating the room, like a ghost had entered. An eerie, unrelenting feeling took control of my mind. and my full attention was fixed on the locked handgun in the bedside drawer. I couldn't shake this out-of-body sensation that had descended upon me. All I could focus on was the thought of shooting myself. This petrified me to my soul. I have never before or since felt anything like that, and don't know if it was a side effect of medication or just a culmination of postpartum life thus far. I left our bedroom, found Colin, and told him what was happening. I hope to never see that look of terror in his eyes as long as I live. When Harper was 6 months old, her pediatrician heard a heart murmur at her well check. We later found out that she had 3 atrial septal defects, or holes, in her heart. Although this in itself was not immediately life-threatening, she would eventually need heart surgery if the holes did not close on their own. I wept in my husband's arms. We sat down and discussed the future, and also the incredibly overwhelming thought of having to go through all of this again and having more children. Then Colin gently stated, "Who says we have to do it again?" And as he voiced those words, I vividly remember the proverbial weight of the world lift off my body. In that moment, our decision to have an only child was solidified. Harper's medical ailments would continue over the next 3 years. She was sick every few weeks from the ages of 1 to 4. There was a period of time where she was displaying seizure-like activity. She has tibial torsion and abnormal rotation of the bones in her lower legs. She had a tonsillectomy due to chronic sinusitis and obstructive sleep apnea. She has trouble gaining weight, a struggle that continues to this day. As time passed, however, the moments of hope grew as we gradually adjusted to our new lives. By 18 months, Harper was fairly independent, and this made her so much more content. I enjoyed my days at work and my days at home with my daughter, learning how to be her mommy. Now, as I watch others become mothers, I reach out to them with empathy, knowing that despite their incredible strength, they too have just been reborn. Fast forward to Mother's Day 2019. I've been up all night with Harper, who has croup and a stomach bug. As my 4-year-old snuggles her feverish head of honey brown curls onto my chest, I reflect on how this journey into motherhood wasn't as expected, but I have been transformed by it. She is our deeply compassionate and courageous little girl with a newly fixed heart after recent surgery at Seattle Children's Hospital. The love she radiates has expanded my former Grinch heart 3 sizes. I thank God for choosing me as her mommy, and I truly cannot love anything on this earth more. Thank you. Now I would like for you guys to welcome the next rock star mom, my friend, Cammie.